Today, the S&P 500 has reached a new all-time high. And historically, Bitcoin has always followed the S&P into new all-time highs. The S&P always does it first. And you guys have probably heard the news that inflation is what they call cooling, though it's pretty much just stagnant, not going up. And the markets see it as a good sign. Bitcoin on the daily chart is now breaking out of our inverse head and shoulders. And yes, we are continuing the same analysis that we've had for months on this channel. The parabolic trend is still intact. All of this and more in today's video. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin Svenson, and today we're going to be discussing the price of Bitcoin and a few key important topics. On this channel, we've had a very consistent analysis. We haven't changed our opinion here at all. We've just been following the textbook parabolic trend, which is still playing out. We'll discuss that. And also in the last video, we talked about the inverse head and shoulders pattern on the daily chart. So I haven't made all that much content over the past couple weeks, really just 3 videos in 2 weeks, because there hasn't been much to say, but today we do have things to discuss. Our ideas, our analysis are now playing out. Yesterday on Twitter, I was saying that Bitcoin will pump when the masses least expect it, as usual. Kind of like today. The S&P 500 is near a new all-time high, and the S&P always leads Bitcoin into its new all-time high. It may not feel like it, but we are close to a major shift in the current trend to the upside, in my opinion. And yesterday on Twitter, we were talking about the inverse head and shoulders once again. So guys, be sure to follow me on Twitter. First things first, Bitcoin's daily chart is now up today. We are punching up over 5% on the day. And we do have a break of the downward sloping trend line. Resistance line, we are now breaking above it. No matter how you look at it, we are breaking out a reversal bottom pattern. So this is really bullish, I would say. I mean, Bitcoin is also above the RSI down trend line on the daily chart. And this is just a signal for continuation to the upside, because it's no different than this zone in the early 2024 when we had a sideways consolidation, a downward sloping resistance on the RSI, and we broke out, leading us to new all-time highs. Bitcoin is once again playing out the exact same scenario, likely leading us to new all-time highs. And this is likely going to be the run where we actually punch up to the parabolic target. This is the main analysis that we've had on this channel for many months. We have not changed our opinion. A consistent analysis for you guys to follow, and it is still playing out. Bitcoin is now up on the weekly. It's looking like we have put in a nice low on this weekly here. Take a look, nice hammer candle, now pushing up on the current weekly. Looks nice, looks like a bottom formation. It looks like an exponential higher low, an accelerating trend line. So this is going parabolic still to this day, and we are at base 4 according to the textbook, which means we have another vertical push up to the sell point of the textbook setup. Now, when people hear me say that, they very often say, Kev, are you telling me to sell at 90,000? Are you telling me that this is the end of the bull cycle at 90,000? No, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the textbook setup is suggesting that once you hit a vertical point where the trend is literally going straight up, well, it has to cool down. Because if the trend continued to follow this parabola, it would be an infinite sort of trend line going vertical or even curving backwards, which we can't go backwards. At some point, the trend must break down out of that parabolic trend. It becomes unsustainable. So I want to give further clarification. This is the textbook target, 90,000. This is not the cycle peak target. I think that in this bull cycle, considering that the halving just happened, we could go higher than 90,000, but we may have to cool down before that. So that could mean that Bitcoin runs up to our parabolic trend target of 90,000 before seeing a breakdown of that trend with a sideways consolidation and then a further push up, creating a larger, more expansive parabolic trend. So something along these lines is what I would expect. And Bitcoin's weekly RSI is very telling. If you look at the weekly RSI, right along the parabolic trend. This trend line stems back to June or July of 2022. That is how old this trend line is, and we have been maintaining it ever since. And you can see right now, we are also bouncing right off of that trend line. We are starting to see that little V bottom come in. I mean, it couldn't be any more beautiful. It couldn't be any more perfect of a trend. So it should be obvious at this point. If it wasn't obvious before, it should be obvious now that we are following the textbook setup, and we are about to go fully vertical towards our vertical target of about 90,000. It doesn't have to be exactly 90. It could be a little less. It could be a little more, but around that zone. It's always difficult to predict exactly where the wicks are going to be, but 90,000 is the textbook target. There's no reason for me to think that this won't play out, seeing that we are sitting perfectly in this trend in comparison to the diagram. Now, in the beginning of the video, I was mentioning that the S&P 500 breaking its all-time high is a very key signal historically for Bitcoin. Because guys, it's really all about confidence. Correlation is not defined by a percentage correlation, right? If the S&P is up 1% today and Bitcoin's up 5%, that doesn't mean they're not correlated. There are different types of correlations. And in this case, it is a general directional correlation. When the S&P is going up in a straight line, Bitcoin is also generally going up in a straight line. When the S&P is seeing a lot of volatility and lower lows and uncertainty, Bitcoin's generally going down. On the larger time frames, they align. So this is something that you need to understand, because a lot of people don't like this subject. They don't like that I talk about how Bitcoin's correlated to the stock market, but it is. It is a directional correlation. And every single time Bitcoin has broken its all-time high, the S&P did it first. Every single time. And so what does that mean? It means that the S&P is providing speculators with confidence, right? When the S&P is at a new all-time high, speculators say, well, this is good. Maybe we can speculate on something more high risk with higher return potential. And I feel confident because look, the stock market's doing it. Let's go in on Bitcoin. Speculator confidence. So that is what we're seeing now, is a lot of speculator confidence. And also we have the GameStop craze going on. And I think that that's actually going to drive a lot of volume into speculative assets like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. People's appetite for risk increases when the S&P is at a new all-time high. So I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of bullish movement for crypto and altcoins. If you look at the total 3, this is the altcoin market cap. This index is called the total 3. It excludes Bitcoin and Ethereum. It is just all the altcoins. And if you look at the 2020 to 2021 zone, we broke out of that lower high about 140 weeks after this lower high right here on the left. In the last cycle in 2018, we formed that lower high. 140 weeks, that's when we broke out. Take in this setup real quick from 2021. Just look at this chart, and now we're gonna flip to the current chart. This is the 2024 total 3 chart, the altcoin market cap. And if you look at the lower high, we are now about 111 weeks or so, 111 weeks into this sideways range. In the last cycle, it was 140 weeks until we broke out. And if we follow this trend line for the altcoins up to the breakout zone of that lower high, that's 124 weeks. The altcoins would be breaking out of this lower high resistance 16 weeks earlier than the last cycle. So keep that in mind, the perspective of time. Nothing's wrong with the altcoins, we're just early. And if Bitcoin breaks the all-time high, altcoins are likely going to see a mania phase, a huge surge, because in all previous cycles, the altcoins had their major main runs. The main bull market for altcoins took place when Bitcoin broke its all-time high. And so with the S&P now breaking its all-time high here once again, if you look at the daily chart, you can see nice daily move above the previous all-time high for the S&P. This is going to give us speculator confidence, likely sends Bitcoin to its new all-time high to actually trend above the all-time high. And that's going to be where the altcoins see a major mania phase, especially as we get closer to the 90,000 target. Altcoins are likely going to be seeing the most insane runs that we've seen yet. So altcoin season, I believe, is around the corner. And today on Twitter, I was saying that all of a sudden, the people who were bearish yesterday, the ones who said we were going to crash, are now pretending to have been bullish the whole time. So be careful about what you're listening to, what you're consuming, because most of the talking heads or the analysts that you guys probably see just try to make themselves look like they're always aligned with the trend, or up or down, and they just want to make it seem like they knew everything, or whatever it is. It could go up, it could go down, but that is why you should subscribe to this channel, because we don't do that. Here on this channel, we actually stick to one analysis that continues to play out for months on end. If you like that kind of consistency, hit the like button and subscribe. And also be sure to sign up for Kraken Pro. I have more content coming on Kraken Pro, this platform that you guys see very soon. And if you guys want to prepare for altcoin season, be sure to join the Patreon. That is one of the things that we discuss in here. There are limited slots, though I'm going to open up a few more before I post this video. So definitely take this opportunity while it's there. You can read the description here, and I'll see you all in the next video.